Okay, on this episode of Estate Agency X, I'm talking to Steve Beercocks. He's got 10 branches up in Hull and already was a successful agent when he decided to suddenly pull all the roots up of his company and make a mass transformation to work a different way. In this episode, we find out why, we find out the problems that he went through, and we found out what happened in the end. Okay, Steve, welcome to the show. What I wanted to talk to you about today was the journey that you've been on with your company, because when we first sort of met, I think it was probably back in about, what would you say, 2017, maybe, something like that. I see a completely different company now when I look at Beercocks to the one that I saw in 2017. And maybe it's just the way that I see it, but I'd love to really break into the journey that you've been on, because even when we met, it would be hard for anyone to argue that you weren't already a very, very successful business. You were already up at 10 branches or around that sort of level anyway, when we first bumped into each other, turning over millions of pounds. Your family had started the business way before, and we had no real relationship. So I kind of remember that in the beginning, you guys were very aware that you were a pretty good catch for any supplier. 10 branches, you're not like small fry, you get what you want, right? So, and then gradually over the years, the business has gone through such a massive transformation that I'm really curious to know how and why you did that, and what drove you and the team on to want to go and make that transformation when you're already probably at a place where most people would just play golf or do something else. So can you sort of somehow take us back to 2017 and your recollection of how you first stumbled across maybe Iceberg and myself, and where it all went from there?
Yeah, I think I was going through a bit of a soul searching, if you like, mission back in, I think around when Purple Bricks came out, because everyone panicked.
Yeah.
And everyone thought, well, hold on a minute, they're just putting them on. Obviously the Bruce brothers were sat there and thought, so these lot are just putting them on the internet and on Rightmove and letting the vendor know the viewings, or we can do that, and we'll do it for £1,000.
And we'll tell them.
And it's sort of, a lot of people went there and we thought, we're going to go the way of the travel agents and things like that. And I sat there and I was trying to find solutions. What's going to work? And I went through CRMs like you wouldn't believe. I went from Repit, I went to Dupix, went to Expert Agent, went back to Repit again, trying to fix a problem that I didn't quite know what it was. We still made a good living, but I knew it wasn't going to be the future for long. And I think when these sort of your Purple Bricks type-esque people came across, estate agents had to go two ways. They could go, well, they're doing it cheap, so we're going to have to do it cheaper, which obviously affects your profit margins, affects what you pay your teams, which then affects how much they can, how much sort of commission you can pay people and things like that. So it was just a race to the bottom. And I thought, well, I want to take over this business eventually. I've got my family need to make a living out of it still. And we had to work a solution because there was lots of mouths to feed. So we started to look at how we can do things differently. And obviously Repit with their, I don't know what they call it, foundations, where you could plug everything in, and we tried all of that, and it was just a mess. So we started to realize that our one thing we had over your one-man band type agents was our data. It was our contacts. It was the people we had on our database. But what were we doing about that? We weren't doing anything. It was just sort of sat there, not doing a lot. And we used to say, oh, look at that, we've got 500,000 people in our database. And what were we doing with it? Nothing. And I mean, obviously you've got different agents out there that can do things because they're a single office agent, or the sort of avocado model, which is a different model to ours. But we had to look and think, what are our strengths that we've got? And it's the offices and the data. And then along came you guys.
Interesting. So, but it wasn't at the time, 2017, 2018, we didn't have, we weren't in the CRM space. We we didn't even have life cycle didn't even exist back then. We had like, the market appraisal, bait tool, which you guys, used. But so I'm guessing like that realization of our USP is going to be created from our size and our data and our teams and all of that sort of stuff. Must have been kind of been something that you realized 2017. We realized that, and then it wasn't like you just sat and waited for, life cycle and the CRM to come. You, as you say, you went to Dupix, you went to Vibra, you went to Repeat. You tried changing technology, which in itself is must have been a crazy experience with 10 branches and God knows how many staff. How many staff have you got? 70 staff, 10 branches. To change CRM once is a nightmare. Like to constantly change people must have wanted to murder you. But and as you say, like you didn't perhaps know why or what is it like? Because effectively, I'm biased, but did you find that they are all ultimately the same?
There was various things we did. I mean, initially when we came, knocking on your door was. We just wanted a fancy thing to give people after evaluation. We didn't want to leave a piece of paper with a contract on it like you used to do. And because and my worry was I didn't want everyone else seeing what I was leaving behind for customers. And when we saw your thing and you could put a little picture on it, we thought, this is great. And that's what it was for us. And yeah, it would tell us when somebody started looking at it again. That's where we started looking at it. And then I wanted to try and build my own. You might be aware, we went to Repeat. It didn't work out. I mean, I know it's fantastic for various things, but for me, it just didn't work. And what happened was, I walked into my Beverley office and I said to him, have you chased this yet? Have you done this? Have you done the other? And the manager said to me, she just had her team. They had a load of applicants they needed to speak to, and there was about 50. Yeah. Okay. She said, we've rung them, every single one, and one person answered the phone. And I'm thinking, so this mentality of chasing valuations, chasing applicants, people didn't want to communicate like that anymore. And I knew that. And I thought, well, what are we going to do? Our data isn't working because we're just picking the phone up to people that don't want to answer. Yeah. So this data is almost like irrelevant. Yeah. So then we thought, should we get a plugin for Repeat and MailChimps and all that type of thing? And it wasn't working. And then we had to come up with the content and various things like that. And we was like, well, I'm pretty good at converting. So what I'll do is I'll go into the valuation. We're fantastic at what we do. We explain to them what we do well. But I knew that wasn't going to be enough. And I think estate agents nowadays, they're very much in the mindset of, it's almost, they want it, it's transactional, it's there and then. I'm going to go into that valuation, I'm going to tell them how fantastic I am. And what I started to learn with various help from you guys was people start making this decision a lot further on. They start being a bit more, and I started listening to a lot of podcasts and watching and reading a lot of books about it. And there was this journey that people went on, and I put myself in a buyer's shoes, and it didn't work that way anymore. And I think there's a lot of software out there that is very good at doing it the old way, doing it fantastic the old way, but people just not answering the phone to me anymore. And that one thing that I knew that was valuable, our network and our size, was starting to dwindle away.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you say, like everybody knows. It doesn't matter to me, like, when I'm on social media or when I'm talking at events and all of that sort of stuff, some people say, oh, your methods are different to other people's methods. And I find it quite interesting because it doesn't matter to me, like what real estate coach you talk to, whether they're from America, Australia, whether they're the best in the world, whether they're somebody who's just a one branch estate agency that's been around for 10 years, whoever you talk to me, they all say pretty much the same thing, and me included, which is that you need to communicate with people, like a lot. You need to always be there. You need to be on their mind. You need to be the person they think about. And it just so happens that everybody's got different methods that they say to do it. One of the methods that is phone people. Phone them. And that sounds like the most simplest, most logical, easiest way to go, because anyone can do that, right? You employ some negotiators and you say, phone these people. But the reality is like, and then what? Like, one, like you say, they ain't answering the phone. And actually, it's almost worse when they do, because then what? What, I'm going to phone this person every week?
Yeah.
I mean, how quickly is that person going to get pissed off? What do you want to, I've heard real estate coaches say, like, I've got 2,000 people in my list, I call them every week. I'm thinking to myself, like, if you called me every week, I'd just be like, stop fucking calling me. Like, why do you keep calling me? It's a different world, isn't it? If you're in LA and I'm your buying agent, I'm out looking for properties for you, and I'm doing all this searching. Like, yeah, maybe I'm checking in with you every week. Maybe I'm just letting you know what I'm up to. But like, that's not the world we live in the UK, is it?
No.
You ain't calling everybody every week, and even if you are, they're telling you to piss off pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, this happened. It was probably early part of last year, when maybe the year before actually, and one of our girls rang. They were ringing through the valuer. No, it wasn't. It was applicants with house to sell, because you can categorise it house to sell. She was working through these, and everybody said, you ring them up, no one's interested, even don't answer anything. And this list had probably 200 or 300 people in it, because it all works on next contact date on our previous CRM. So this list would just get bigger if you didn't forward it on. And this one time, this person rang up and she got the valuation and it came on the market, and it was like, I told you so, it works. And then I was working out how much time had they done that. And we worked out it was thousands of hours for that one house that we'd have got. Do you know what I mean? And I think when you're fighting for and this is what I found, when you're going in, you're fighting for the business. And I know a lot of people have got to compete, but when you're fighting for the business, it tends to start to point towards fee. And for me now, when I'm looking at my customers, I don't fight for it. And it's very, very similar to when we talked a while ago about, the journey and the buyer persona. What type of buyers do I look for? And because we've got our journeys right, we do tell people very upfront we're not the cheapest. Why we're not the cheapest, not too much information, we'll leave that in the appointment. All our valuers now, the fee is given within the first 5 or 10 minutes of the appointment to say, look, this is what we charge. It's more than everyone else. If you want your house straight on Rightmove, do not use me, because you've got to believe in what I do, And the problem is with people that are in there, I've got this pie chart, look how many houses I've sold and this, that, and the other. And it's sort of irrelevant. I'm going to show you a process that I have, and I'm going to back it up with evidence of why it works. And if you like it and we want to work with you, we'll work together and we will help you through your process, as opposed to this sales thing and this rejection you used to get when you used to lose a valuation.
And also, like, just for the people that are listening or watching, like, when you're saying that, I know that what you're also thinking is like, and our system is communicating that to people. Even those people that are not answering the phone, we're able to communicate that information out. When people are booking a valuation, they can maybe get some sort of information before the appointment, or whatever it is, that information is being communicated. So it doesn't become like you're calling a random list of people that you've never spoken to before. Somehow you get a valuation. They know nothing about you. You've got 30 minutes, go win it. Do you know what I mean? It's coming away from that. Yeah. It's coming away from that, isn't it? And it's now like you turn up and they may already know some stuff. And if they don't, then you've got the confidence to go, okay, all right, well, let me tell you, because also after the appointment, stuff's going to start coming through to this person as well. It's not all just about 25 minutes in the living room. You're either winning it or you can move on.
That's what it was. And that's exactly how it was. And I don't know if it was Rob or you a while ago, because obviously I've known you guys a few years. And when you said this to me the first time, I wouldn't have it. And the thing you said to me is, your job as a valuer is not to fuck it up. That's what you said to me. He said, if you can get it right. And this is where now we've got, last year I spent a lot of time getting journeys right and things like, we've gone mad with our social media and really started to portray the type of houses we're getting are nicer houses. People already know about us when we're getting there. Yes, everyone knew our name because it's a very unusual name, as we know. But so we get invited down because we're the biggest. But when you sat down there and people were breaking it down, it was like, well, he's going to do that. He's going to give me a premium listing on Rightmove. He does nice photos and he's going to do the viewings or whatever. And it's like, we're just trying to tell them the stuff that we should be doing well anyway. Whereas giving them something tangible to walk away with and say, is that the process or the journey I want to go on? And the way we find quite useful as well, because we've got quite a good market share in our area, is we've got in our CRM, we've got it set so if we sell a house within half a mile of another house, it just pings you an email saying we've sold another house near you. Now, we've only been using Lifecycle as our CRM we've used it for 5 years for the valuation side, but now we're using it with the pictures on there and everything. It just tells them when we sell a house around the corner. And the amount of times I'll go back to a house second time round and they just say to me, we just keep getting emails saying that you're selling houses, you're selling, and we're sat here and we've had no interest. You know what I mean? And it's things like that and now those are the phone calls every 2 weeks, ringing, leaving voicemails that nobody answers.
What's brilliant about that when you think about it is that, if you see a post on Facebook, oh, we've sold another house, often some people are of the opinion that that's just, it's like a dentist bragging that, he's just extracted another tooth, that's just his job. And yeah, you could argue that, I'm not fully against the idea, but I can see where they're coming from. It's not that useful content for everybody, but it is very useful for somebody who's thinking about selling their house. And most agents have to do it en masse because they have no way of being able to narrow it down any further than that. What your system's doing, it's not telling everybody that you just sold a house. It's looking for people who have got a house within a certain radius that are thinking about selling, and it's then bombarding them with all the houses that you keep selling round the corner from them.
Yeah.
That's the effective part, isn't it? And that's the bit whereby without that system, even in a 1 branch, it would be a problem. But a 10 branch organisation with 70 staff, that's just not going to happen consistently, is it? It's not going to happen as consistently as that. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for me, if you can check my Facebook, Instagram, whatever, this braggy sort of thing, you won't find it. I mean, you might find it on some of the older stuff before we start operating a different way, but people don't want to go, oh, brilliant, that's so good, Beercocks have sold another house. It means, now, if it's something meaningful, this person was struggling with this, and we helped them do this, that, and the other, and we helped them negotiate on the house they were buying, and they can put themselves in those shoes a little bit. But we've sold another house, it's waffle that people
means
don't want to
nothing
hear.
unless you're in that little bracket of people that are trying to sell a house near to that house.
100%.
Okay, so we jumped forward a little bit there. I want to rewind a little bit because I know that there was a journey that you went on where you said that you basically tried to build your own system effectively. I mean, not from scratch, but tried to take a system like, I think it was Salesforce or something like that, and adapt it. So at that point, we'd known each other quite a long time. You were into, as far as I could tell, you were quite into the thinking behind, okay, yeah, we need to communicate with our database and we need some automation and we need that sort of stuff. But there was obviously something that, stopped you from wanting to continue going down that road with Iceberg for whatever reason. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to get to that. The point I'm trying to get to is what were the problems and the roadblocks that you started to see that at some point it must have seemed, well, this is simple. I'll just do this myself. And then what?
I think I was trying to please the teams because they liked Repeat or didn't mind Repeat. But I knew the future, so I thought, well, that doesn't do the report. We can't print this off and do that, and we can't log in and get that instantly, and that's a load of work in the background.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'll do it myself. Salesforce will do it. But I was still in the mentality at the time of we need the next contact date. We need to call all these people, chase, communicate. And it was only when a very honest manager of mine or two came to me and said, look, we're not being lazy here. This is shit. We've got this list. We get nothing from it, but we don't want to get in trouble because we haven't got our list down to zero.
It's amazing. That's amazing because I remember
but because I'm not on the phones dealing with that, I'm just getting this feedback. And it was like I say, a well-respected team member that came to me and just said, look, this is crap. It's a waste of time. I've missed that. I'd ring them up and I'd say, look how many missed calls you've missed 10% of your phone calls today. And it's like, yeah, because I've been ringing all them fucking applicants that don't answer the phone because I don't want to get in bother about me getting down to zero. And that's where it all started to pull together. And last year I had a lot of time off, as you know, because I had an accident, and I started digging into it a lot more. And that's when I started to realize to say, right, all the things we wanted to do with the Salesforce thing, because we wanted to hybrid it both and make it exactly the way we wanted it, I realized that we didn't actually need the old stuff. And that was a leap of faith. And it took a lot of convincing to the other directors as well.
That is a big leap of faith, because, you know, I mean, I have that conversation regularly with estate agents. Life cycle is a transformation. It's not an incremental, oh yeah, it's just like Repeat, but like, you know, it also sends emails. It's like total, you're talking like, we don't have a coaching program for no reason. Like, this is a total transformation. And so that is a massive leap of faith, because I can remember us having a Zoom call with one of your sales managers at one point, and we were talking, you were showing us the next contact date, how it works. And I was like, because obviously I'm, you know, at one extreme of the scale, I was like, what if there isn't a next contact date? And he was like, well, there always is a next contact date. It's like, but what if there isn't? Well, but there has to be. And I was like, well, no, it doesn't have to be, does there? Because the system's going to communicate with them.
Well, you archive
anyway.
You archive it.
Yeah. So our system is going to communicate with everybody anyway, and then it's going to tell you when they're active, and then that's going to become a next contact date. So why do I need a next contact date? And the mindset, it was just like the two minds couldn't understand each other, could they? So I can see why, you know, you was there thinking, yeah, life cycle's great, but like, that's like jumping straight to Jupiter. Like we first of all, we need to go just to the moon. Like, and so, yeah, that must have been the trying to build that sort of hybrid in between. The problem that we've faced when we've looked at it before is like, actually, when you go all the way to Jupiter and look back, you realize, no, you can't have next contact date, because, you know, when you eventually get to Jupiter, you'll realize the whole thing doesn't work. You know, but the problem is, I guess, when an agent first looks at that, they go, no, but I need this. And we're like, no, honestly, believe us, you don't need it. You can't have it. And it's too much.
No, and I think, you know, I've had a look at, I had a look at a few CRMs over the times, and some with nice flashing bells on, and they look nice and they do this, that and the other, but it's just doing the same shit.
Yeah, it's the same job.
Same job, but in a nicer package with maybe a slightly more modern way of communicating or something like that. But it's not actually doing anything different. It's just newer, maybe slightly quicker in a certain way, and you can use it on your mobile phone and it'll do something to the buyer or whatever. But for me, it's you're forgetting the whole, you're going to become a slave to Rightmove. That's your biggest issue for me. You become a slave to Rightmove, and then if you're going to attract the people that want it on Rightmove, and those people that want it on Rightmove, eventually something will come along, whether it's with AI or something like that, where it's more automated and you become irrelevant. And this is my biggest worry, and this is what I started to see a while ago, is we can become irrelevant. Yes, you're always going to need to go and down value a house or value a house, but there will be something, whether it's, you know, Woolworths that's become irrelevant or whatever. There's still going to be a demand for a middleman, but if we don't, you know, look after what we've got and own what you've got, that's where I started to see issues coming in the future.
As a company that has so many, you know, compared with a single estate agency, has a lot of staff, has a lot of branches, you have a different role, you have different stresses. Are there certain things that the company now does in the way that it works that are different to the way that it used to work, where you can look back and think, why would you ever still be doing it the other way? It's like it requires so much resource, like that sort of thing that you were talking about, like the phone lists. Do the people still make random phone calls, or do they now have more focused time, or is it a hard one to sort of convert over from one way to the other way?
Well, I'll tell you, when we moved off Repeat at Christmas or around Christmas, I was still in Repeat mode to a degree, and I was like, right, every single lost valuation that is on there, we need to copy and paste and put it into Task Force, and then we can carry on doing it. And I was like, what are we doing? We're just trying to make life cycle Repeat. And I was like, that's not going to work. And dropping that, yes, we do chase loss valuations,
of course,
but there was so much crap in there, and we sort of filtered it out. And now people will choose us if they like us. you know, you might get some feedback after evaluation. Yeah, we thought it was great, but there was another guy that did it cheaper or whatever. You've got to make your effort in there, a follow-up call out of, you know, politeness to see how they're getting on. As long as they know you've called back up, you've done your bit. And we're so less active like that. And people prefer it. And my market share has shown it over the last 6-7 months. It's grown month on month because my teams are just not doing the crap. They're having good conversations with the right people.
They're concentrating on the 20%. The funny thing is that it feels like you're less active. Actually, you're more active, aren't you? Because everybody gets communicated with. Everybody's in nurture journeys. Everybody's getting the right content at the right time. Everybody's got the choice to show themselves as active. So it feels like, you know, oh, we're less active now, but actually you're more active, but the team can be more focused, can't they? Like, so what's something whereby it was, what would you say was one of the things that was hardest for you to, you know, you were adamant, no, this is not the way it is, and eventually it became something where you were like, fucking hell, that is amazing. Something that happened maybe where you just thought, huh, okay.
Getting people earlier in the journey, I think, was a massive thing. But light bulb moment, I was just talking to Toby about it. There's nothing that sort of made me realise instantly that something had to change. When we were going into houses and we were going to value houses, and this was going back a bit, you know, we were all just sounding the same. You know, we do good photos, we do you a floor plan. It was just all the same talk.
But if you're someone started in your company now, it was just like, this isn't the way, Steve. This isn't the way. Like, believe me, my old company, we used to use this software where we had call forward dates, nothing gets missed, you make the calls, this is the way you should be working. Why would you be so calmly confident now that the guy was, or the girl was mental and wrong?
I don't know, I'll pull out my sheet and show the market share change, I guess. It's
because it's a massive change. Like I say, you were already successful. You already turned over millions of pounds. You had a system. You had call forward. And you could argue, why bother changing? Like, yes, okay, maybe life cycle is better. Maybe it isn't. Maybe that way of working is better. But I'm already making millions of pounds. I don't need to change. So it's a massive change to just pull all those trees up, plant new ones, go through all the crap, trying to build your own system, that doesn't work, the stress that it caused, everything.
There was loads of stuff.
And then to get to that point whereby, like, you're confident enough to, you know, you recently spoke on stage at State Agency X, and the confidence and just it's not you talking about what you hope might happen. This is stuff that you're now fully confident. You're like, right, this is the way it works.
I think a few things happened last year, but, you know, I like I said, I had a bit of an accident, made me rethink my life. And I sat there one day and I said, I'm living my life for the weekend, right? I'm living my life for my 4 weeks holiday a year. I'm going to work, I'm earning a decent living, and everything's good. But I don't want to enjoy what I was doing. I wanted more houses on the market so I could get a nicer car, or I could do this. But I was wishing my life away. And I thought, I want to love what I do. If I can walk into a house, I can help people, be good. And this is why the whole sales angle for me now has changed. And I used to drive past the house if there was a board outside and I really wanted it. It used to drive me mad. Whereas now I walk away, I think that was not the right person for me. And a lot of that came from the buyer persona that we spent a lot of time on. But I started to look and think, look, I probably want to help people here. I want to help people make the maximum amount of money for the house, get it as stress-free as possible, and I have a process that does it, that nobody else does, because I've got the big database and I can market it in a certain way to allow me to do that. And once I realised and had confidence in what I did, and I could look at the stats and show to a customer, look, this isn't to knock the competition, this is just to show you that we get a lot more for houses, if you like. And because I was able to do that, I think that's when the whole pestering people, trying to win an instruction and, you know, that type of thing, it sort of just became old-fashioned for me. And I just stood back and looked at it and thought, nah, I'm going to change.
Love that. So key part then is just knowing who you exist for and being confident enough to charge for it. You mentioned to me earlier before we started filming that 3 agents in your area have just gone bust. And when we were talking about it, you were saying like, you know, they had already started that cutting the fees. We'll do it for 800 quid. We'll do it for 700 quid. A race to the bottom. And
yeah, I walked past the window and it said 850 quid including VAT. And in my head straight away I said, that's the last chance saloon, you know. And you know, and agents have got to realise you've got to put value in what you do. People don't want the cheapest. They want the cheapest because you're all the fucking same.
Yeah.
And if you go to them and you can put a proposal, whatever your proposal is, but it is unique, not the same as everyone else, put it on Rightmove, then people will pay for it for a safe pair of hands. That's what they want, a safe pair of hands to look after a big asset of theirs, you know? And once you get to that and you can justify why you're doing what you're doing and how it works, they'll either like it or they won't. And if they don't like it, there's no point working with them because the chances are you're going to fall out in a few months because you're not doing the way they wanted it doing.
Yeah.
So when I send my valuation report out afterwards, it states the stats of where I am and what I achieve, but very clearly says, if you don't believe in this process, you're wasting your money with us. Because even though we'll get them more money, you know, there's always the guy out there that's happy that he's gone with the agent that charges 1,000 quid or whatever and it sold on day one. Me thinking I could have got him more than that, but he's chuffed to bits.
Yeah.
And that's what that guy needs or lady needs.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, it's just not about that. It's about offering something that's tangibly better for the customer and they can see a perceived value in it. Yeah. It's not so I can go roll around in money, you know. Life cycle's not cheap, but it pays for itself many, many, many times over. And that's, for me, that was my stance of what I took. And that's a sort of journey I went on middle of last year.
Yeah, that's interesting. So with one more thing that I wanted to ask you was, we have conversations regularly about the things that life cycle can't do that you'd like it to do. And, you know, obviously, like, you know, there's all that's going to happen forever. You know, there's things that I wish that Google did that, you know, they'll bring out one day. There's things that everyone wants the Apple iPhone to do that it doesn't. But the process that a company goes through of change, whereby it doesn't matter if you're switching to Lifecycle or Repeat or Dupix, you know, it's going to be horrific anyway. Because, you know, it's like if I take away, I don't know, your favorite food and I replace it with something else, you're just not going to be happy about it, right? People don't like change. So you've got all these staff, all these branches, and they're all telling you, no, we liked the old system, we liked this, we liked that. Why can't it do this? Why can't it do that? And you know, you're doing your best to kind of appease them. And occasionally we're having conversations about stuff. How do you manage to keep people positive about the fact that it's overall it's a net positive? Do you know what I mean? Like, rather than get caught up in, rather than it become that you've had so many phone calls now that you just want to go back to having a quiet life. I don't care. I believed in this change, but it's not worth the aggro of all these people. Just put the old system back in. I don't want to have anything to do with it. How do you stay focused on that, and how do you keep your teams?
It was, I remember you messaged me when you knew when our go live on Lifecycle was, and you messaged and said, Steve, this is going to be shit, or something like that. Remember, focus on a net positive. And that has been, you just saying it again, brought that back, you know, that's what really started. Fucking, they can't do it. They can't do this. And it was very difficult. Reporting wasn't there. Repeat is the master of CRMs if you want reports. But then it's like, right, we've got a bit of manual stuff to do, but we've saved all that time not having to do this. So it's just, like you said, net positive. And when you sat down with the teams, they had 2 or 3 weeks finding it tough, you know, but we did it at a good time of year and they got their heads around it. And they were all trying to store the tasks in and things like that, but copying everything over Repeat because I told them to do it, which pissed them off because then I said, we're not doing it that way now because it's been nurtured and it ends up in rocks. Because I didn't think of it like that. But now that crap goes into rocks and it's not crap because it's there and it works. But I was trying to, even I at that point was trying to do it. It's a painful process, but getting your team on board a lot of it was to do with, we made them all do the academy thing, where there was that question, the old academy before the new one came out, where they had to answer the questions and they had to understand why. And they because we used life cycle side by side with Repeat for so long, and I've banged on about nurture this, nurture that, this, that, and the other. They knew that people had rung up because they'd seen our content and things like that. They knew what I was trying to do, but it takes a proper sales talk. I had to go around every branch on numerous occasions, which is not cheap for me to be off the road, to explain it to them. And I had a couple of core managers that truly believed in what I did and what we were doing, and they helped with the message. So yeah, it's not easy, but it's harder to go and Repeat life cycle. I just think there can be a crossover period. We looked at it and we started putting all of our data and properties onto life cycle, and then eventually they're all on. And then we just had to switch the feeds over, and that was a less stressful way of doing it. You know, and
it's very tricky, isn't it? Because we do have I wouldn't say a majority of people, but we do have a percentage of people that want to make the change. They want a system that's going to nurture their data, and who wouldn't, right? You want a system that's going to do all the clever stuff, put the right content in front of the right people at the right moment. But then when they actually come over, they try to get it to work like their old system, and then they find themselves frustrated, even though when you explain to them like, oh no, it is working, right? It doesn't do what you're saying. They're still frustrated because they're like, I know, but I want it to do that. It's like, I don't know how you want me to fix that problem. Like, someone was saying to me, they leave notes in this field that's not made for notes, and because they do that, it doesn't do something else. And it's like, I know, but that field's not made for notes. No, I know, but I want to leave notes there. And it's like, how am I supposed to? What do you want me to say to this?
And learning from my experience, well, if people were going to take advice from my experience with it, is even me, who was bought on the whole idea middle of last year after I spent a lot of time deciding on how we were going to make it work. Even with that, it was tough at the time, but it takes a month, maybe 6 weeks to properly get your head around it. You'll try and make it do what your CRM previously did, but before you know it, you'll have your core team members that know the stuff. We've all got them, the one that's a guru on the system, and you go to them and they'll say to you, Steve, that's crap because of that, but I've got this. It might be a workaround or two, and we've had to put a couple of workarounds in because we've moved from the Repeat that does absolutely everything from something that does the marketing and the more futuristic type where the industry is going extremely well. So people have got it's a bit of a hangover. It's a bit like the property brochures. I've stopped doing the old property brochures, with a matching range of base and high level units, complementing work surface, all that. But why are we describing that when there's a picture, when there's pictures there, do you know what I mean? And it's still a hangover from when there wasn't pictures inside houses. And it's very much it's getting into that mindset, knowing that stuff's going on. If you want people to ring, you've got your rocks at the bottom, but that will start to fill up in time. You know?
It's really interesting. I guess it's like just staying focused on that, the big goal of why we switched, isn't it? It's just keep coming back to that, that kind of guiding light whenever the challenge comes up. Yeah, but remember, we switched because of this. So can we deal with that?
But just think, if anyone's got some clever stats of, if you've been on the same software, phone system company, they'll be able to give you stats for the last 2 or 3 years. Just look at how many phone calls you made and how many people actually answered compared to now. Even in the last 2 years, do the research and you'll see a difference. We did it, and the phone calls a good few years ago, from when we went on to a voice over IP system a good few years ago, we're looking at it and people answered the phone and they're just not now. And that's where and if you start looking, you're hanging on to something there's still business in there. Don't get me wrong. If you ring up, it's still there, but it's waning. It's not a future thing.
It's not the way to plan.
You're holding on to the stuff that was all, that used to be great, and there is still business in it, but it's heading a different direction, and we can still call the people if we want to, but it's just gearing up for the future,
Something I've always wondered with a company of your size, in my mind, I've always sort of thought, because, when you talk to an estate agent and you say life cycle will register people for you, people get a bit uncomfortable, like, no, that's our job. We do that. And it's like, no, but you can't do it properly for everybody. I mean, like, we've all experienced phoning an estate agents before, and like, not everybody is registering people properly. No, we do. We register people properly. And I've always sort of thought to myself, well, that's just not feasible. It can't be true. So genuinely, like, being a company with so much volume, does it make a difference that being able to know every single person across the entire organisation that registered that has got a house to sell, and then that person then goes into some sort of journey and pops up in a rock and that sort of thing, does that tangibly make a difference, or were the staff doing it anyway? Maybe they've just saved a bit of time on registering.
I think knowing where your business, where things have come from, I don't know.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, we have quite a lot of companies that use our software that are maybe 1 branch, 2 branch, something like that. And so, like, I think they could argue to me that, like, to be honest, Mark, we kind of know those people anyway. I just sort of have always thought to myself, at that level, another 10 branch organisation, for instance, that's not using Lifecycle. You spoke to one the other day for me, I think, that's paper based. And I just think I look at it and I think to myself, just small things like automatically replying to leads, or automatically qualifying applicants, or knowing who's got houses to sell, sending out sold near you emails, just small automations must for a company that size.
I think when you speak to managers, we do a lot of mystery shops, and we can see how the teams perform. They're very good. Don't get me wrong, but are they calling it? There's a lot more data in there. There's a lot more people being nurtured now than what there was, because they were nurtured by pest phone calls that they didn't want, and that's how they were. And you got the odd person that said, "Oh, you're the one that's rang me the most, so I'm going to put my house on the market with you." But those people are getting older now, and the sort of the younger generation that are coming through don't want to communicate that way. So it's good for us to know and see what people's positions are. And when if I'm on an appointment, because like I said, it was so interesting listening to Dave Gibbons on your I can play golf 4 times a week and sit away. I think, God, I love it. I could never do that. I want to be in every day. I absolutely love it. I'm still on the road. My dad, who's 66 years old, he's still valuing 3 days a week, doing all our fine and country stuff. He absolutely loves it. So listening to that was a completely different way of doing it. So when we go to the appointments, getting that list out and saying, right, how fast do you want to sell it? Well, I want to sell it to somebody that's, I want to sell it in 6 months. Okay, let's look at the people that have been looking in 6 months. And you can put it in who's active order. And instead of just pulling up a paper list out your CRM and saying, look, I've got all these people, it's more of a situation where, look, this guy was active, and you can use the flap on your iPad. You can say, look, let's see what properties he's looked at. And you can actually go through it without showing the details.
Okay, so you've been through that entire journey, right? All the way from where we started back at the beginning. And then what was it worth it at the end? We've spoken before about, like, some of the conversations that you've been able to have internally now. What's the result at the end that makes it like, yeah, it was a good idea?
Our time to sell has shrunk. Our percentage of price is still above any other agent in the region by quite a margin. So percentage of price we achieve for the customer. My reduction rate, so how often do we have to reduce a house to sell it, is the lowest. So these are the metrics of what we base it on, not just new instructions. What percentage of my houses are now selling? Okay. Yeah. So now I could say, well, we've just employed a load of great people or something like that. Something's changed in the last 6 months. Yes, we were using Lifecycle, but not as our main CRM, but something's changed in that time period. And the feedback I've had from my teams, it's more meaningful conversations.
Right.
It's actually, speaking to somebody that we know is active again to see and ask them how they're getting on and things like that. And it's more meaningful. People, it allows them to act, because whereas before you so much get thrown enough mud at a wall, some of it will stick. And that's when I said to you about, I've got to love what I do. And I wasn't loving what I was doing because I was just throwing enough mud at a wall. And that's not good experience for the customer. It's not very good experience for my teams that work for me at all. It's important to get people enjoying the work, you know, and I think that's something and I've got an HR manager called Emma. She's joined us 5 years ago, and she's been instrumental getting the right people, and she, you know, read your book with me, with getting the values in place and everything. She's massively helped me put that vision into, and my family to put the vision, you know, into place, you know.
Amazing. So it's almost like they slowed down to speed up. And it's crazy, because I often say that to agents, like, you know, if they move to the CRM, and then when they're struggling, or they're asking about what about this, what about that, it's always usually because they're doing things at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It has to be, that button has to be there, because you don't realise I've got 58 phone calls to make, and I've also got an appointment, and I'm due here and I'm due there, and I don't want to have to click 2 buttons to get there. And I'm kind of going, slow down, you don't need to do that anymore. You don't need to make 50 phone calls. So all good. I've just saved you an hour. Are you all good to click 2 buttons now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember last time paper contract. I can't remember last time I filled in a paper contract. It's got to be a year ago, you know. It's all that time. I know various CRMs do things in certain ways, but for me, it's just allowing everything to become a little bit more automated and just more slick.
Love it. Brilliant. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to this Estate Agency X podcast. Can you make sure that you're actually subscribed to this podcast channel if you liked the content? It helps us massively to get better guests, and it just helps us generally. So you might think you're subscribed, but just have a double check, whatever your podcast platform of preference is, that you're actually subscribed. And then that way we can continue to grow the channel and get better and better guests for you.